Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Hemp Homeschool. I'm your substitute teacher for the day. My name is Darryl Esterly, FLW Toyota Series and Pro Fisherman here in the Northern Division. I'm from Fleetwood, Pennsylvania. Kind of hard to believe I'm going to be teaching any class. I had some high school teachers that probably wouldn't believe this is ever going to happen, but this is who you got for today. I was introduced to Kentucky Hemp Works products about a year ago by a friend. I used the salve for aches, pains, after long days on the water, thousands of casts, long boat rides, and had great success. A couple of months ago, Kentucky Hemp Works introduced their fish chum and attractant, and I thought, what an amazing idea. So I reached out to them and became part of their family. I've been using their attractant now for over a month with great success. And we'll get to that later of how I use it and where I use it, and maybe we'll get some photos of some great days fishing with it. So Katie came to me and asked me if I'd do a video on basic fishing, rods, reels, to get people started. Mostly we want to get started as young children. And we need to put away the Xbox and pick up the tackle box. I'm sure everyone's heard that saying, but we'll get to that too here in a minute. So Katie had talked to me about doing an introduction to fishing, and we're going to go over some different kinds of rods and reels, from starters to stuff I use when I'm on the water and on tournaments. What I'd like to do first of all is explain a little bit of my background with fishing. I was introduced to fishing at a young age by my father. Even as I grew up and expanded into other sports, I always enjoyed fishing, but not at the extent that I do now. I took time in high school, played baseball and soccer and track and those kind of things, but that all ends. After so many years being out there, all of a sudden, oh, I'm out of high school. I don't no longer have those things to fall back on. And it seems like you do have a tendency to fall back on things that you might have done as a youngster. So after getting out of high school, I spent 4 years in the United States Marine Corps. And then after getting out of the Marine Corps is when I started fishing again. I started fishing from a bank, local lakes, finally picked up my first bass boat, moved on to fishing a couple tournaments, did pretty well, moved on to fishing some other tournaments, kept moving up until I started fishing FLW events. A couple years back, fishing BFLs, and now fishing the Toyota Series, which once was the Costa Series. So when I talked about getting young kids introduced to the sport, I'm going to prove to you maybe later in this video towards the end of how I believe that works. And I think you'll get the gist of what I'm trying to say. So let's take time to break down some of the equipment. First of all, there's different kinds of reels. We have casting reels, spinning reels, closed face reels, and they all have their own, let's say they all have their own use, time when you would use one over the other. But for all you beginners or people that just want to take your sons and daughters out for their first fishing trip, you're not going to turn around and start out with something like this. Okay? Or even like this. What I want to do is I've explained to you about a couple of reels and what I would think the first trip out to take your sons and daughters out to the little pond, catch some sunfish, maybe some perch, maybe some bluegill, crappies, whatever, is going to be something as simple as this. This is a closed face casting reel. You can pick it up at any local store, which I hope you would take the time and go to your local tackle shop, the local business, the little guy. I'm sure these guys would love to see you come in the door, help you out with this kind of thing, just like we're going to try to do today, and let you pick up the right thing. You don't want to go out and spend big high dollars on something if you want to just take your son and daughter out fishing for the afternoon. Okay? What's simple about these closed face fishing reels is the use for a little kid. What happens is the way these work is when you push this button and release it, the line will come out. So when the kid decides to cast and he pushes the button, lets go, throws out in the water, works much easier than some of these other ones. The tangles, well, you might see a little bit of the lines wrapped around for now, so I didn't lose it. Okay? But you're not going to get all the big birds nested here. And most of the time when you go to your local tackle shop, they can hook you up with something like this, full line. All you got to do is pick up maybe a few bobbers and hooks, which I think LeVar might be talking about tomorrow with different rigs. So he can teach you more about that. When you're looking at the rod, you got your butt of your rod, this has a pistol grip. The difference between a pistol grip is where your finger would go, your thumb in here and hold it down. Okay. You got the base of the rod, you got your guides. You're going to find out as you go up in quality, you're going to have more and more guides. And then, I'm not going to take the time of rigging the whole thing. Like I said, I believe LeVar is going to do that. But this is a simple rig and a simple setting for young kids to get started. Most of these will come with a practice plug. It's a little plastic plug that you can put on the end and have them go out in the backyard and make some casts. And actually, maybe some of them even come with little games, and you could set up a basket and make it a family time. Everyone get out there and try their shot at putting it down on the target. What I want to go over, I'll bring that one back. The difference between that was a closed faced, and here's an open face bait casting reel. There's no line on this one now. This is just out of the box. And what you're going to notice about this, compared to this, is how it's open in the front. That's because when you close, you're going to do the same thing with this button, but when you would cast it, your thumb would work as the brake, which takes a lot of getting used to. Some of these nowadays, this one here almost breaks for itself, which is kind of amazing. When you get into these higher end rods, more quality, fiberglass or composite, graphites, there's so many different things what they make them out of today. This rod here, probably, this whole rod, this 7-foot rod probably weighs less than this kid's rod. And then when you get away from the bait castings, fishing heavy cover and stuff like that, stuff that you would not be doing with them, but someone like me uses all the time. If you were going to move up from closed-faced casting reel, this would be probably your next step. This is a spinning reel. This is an Abu Garcia put on a spinning rod. You'll notice the difference between a spinning reel and a casting reel. Casting reel on top, spinning reel on bottom. The difference in the rods, see the guides are down on the bottom. Casting, guides on the top. Now with a spinning reel, compared to a casting reel or a bait caster, there's no button. You're not going to be hitting a button. You're not going to be, what you actually do is you're going to, this is your button. You do it manually. And you would grab the line. It's probably going to be a little easier if I grab this one because it's got a bait on it. And what you would do is grab that line, open it up, and the same motion that you would have with a casting rod over your head and cast out into the water. A little more difficult than the closed face, but still not as hard as the casting that I showed you. So now that you know the basics of a rod, and say you want to take that son or grandson or granddaughter out fishing, what you're going to want to do, like I said before, please support your local tackle shops. I know you can go to the big chains, support the local guy, the little guy. He's trying to make a living too. So what I'm saying is you got this set up, you go to the tackle shop, he'll set you up, I'm sure, with different live baits. Tell you, I'm sure there's a local pond or somewhere, a local lake that he can point you in the right direction to catch some sunfish. What you want to do, you got to be prepared to do, is be patient. When you take a young child fishing, be patient. And pack many snacks. When you think you have enough, it's not enough. Cold drinks, you got to make them want to come back. If fishing is good and they're catching sunfish after sunfish after sunfish, and you decide, look, it's time to go, they're going to want to come back. If you decide you take them out and things aren't going good, you might have caught some fish and now things are getting bad and you had them there too long, that's the last thing they're going to remember, the bad experience at the end. Now I want to take some time to talk to you more experienced fishermen about the fish attractant and how I've been using it and how I've been putting it on baits. When this first came out, I honestly had no idea how it was going to work until I used it, and I am sold, and hopefully you guys will give it a shot. Anyway, what I like to do is, because this comes in this small bottle with a little dropper, I'm going to get some out of there so I don't make a mess in here. On your hard baits, the hard bait's stuck in the rag. All you're going to do is take some on your dropper and just smear it along the back. Maybe you can rub it down the side, but just a couple drops on there. It's amazing how long this stuff lasts. Same thing with your crankbaits, your jerk baits, any kind of hard bait. You can use it on the top water, any hard bait, any spinner bait, jigs, jig trailers. Just put it on the skirt, just using the little dropper. Here's a little Ned jig. You can put it on there. Another way, I'm going to put this on so I don't make a mess, is take your soft plastics. This is a bag of spot-on baits. Give these guys a shout out sometimes. A local company around here making some good product. Another small business. You can open up the bag, take your dropper. I can actually put some of this in because it ain't gonna matter. Put a few drops in there. Don't spill that. Rub it around on your baits. And I found if you take this bait and sit it out in the sun for a few hours, it almost bakes into them. It just seems like it just hangs on there longer, and it's going to stay in that bag nice and fresh. The last way that I found out I've used it, it was totally by mistake. I've had some of the fish chum and the fish attractant in a zip bag like this in my boat. This, I'm kind of borrowing a boat from someone. I'll let you know whose that is right now here. But putting this in there, somebody, and I mean somebody, I mean myself, didn't put the lid on right. And this all leaked out inside my bag. And I'm like, I have a big mess here. At the time, I was at the lake fishing for the hybrid stripers. You might have seen the picture on Kentucky Hemp Works site there. Any questions about that, please contact me. And I was using one of these, just a soft minnow bait. And it was already on my rod. So I had a mess. I just took my bait with the hook in. I put it in the bag. Pull it back out. No mess anymore. Zip it up. And I could reapply that over and over again as many times as I wanted during the day. So maybe it's worth trying. If you don't like the droppers, just put some in the bag. Put your bait in there while you're fishing. Zip it back up. Fish for a while. Maybe 30, 40 casts or something. Do it again. Maybe a half hour. Great way. Total mistake, but it worked great. Okay, I'd like to explain my thoughts on fish attractants. When it comes to bass are very opportunistic. They fish, they're not going to come swimming over and smell something and come swimming over and eat it. More or less what they do is with their sight, depending on the water clarity, and their vibration from their lateral lines, and they see that, and sometimes depending on what time of year, depending what kind of mood the fish are in, that strike zone that you have to put your bait in, which is the angler's, that's the key to fishing. It's up to the angler to put their bait in their strike zone and make that fish bite. Sometimes that strike zone can be 30, 40 feet clear water, 50 feet away. Sometimes that strike zone's got to be in front of their nose, either because the water's so dirty or the fish are just not in an active mood, and you're going to trigger a strike out of aggression. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is, fish attractant is made for me, to make the fish hold on. And that's what I've noticed about this stuff. I've taken this over and I've used it on one of these bait striper fishing, and I have some video I'm going to try to get out there of smallmouth fishing. First time I used this, I was hybrid striper fishing just for fun, and the fish were just hitting my bait. Boom, I'd feel it, I couldn't hook anything. Boom, I had another guy with me, and we were having the same problem. I turned around, and remember I had this with, got it out. This is when I spilled it in the bag. Every fish that hit it, ate it, and held on. All I can explain is the omegas found in the fish attractant, the same omegas that you're going to find in fish oil. That's my thought on it. But every time I use it, it just seems like they don't let go. And as fishermen, and as somebody that needs them fish to stay on the line for money, to pay the bills, it seems to work. And it's worth every cent to try. If you have any questions about today's class, or just want to pick my brain about fishing, or just talk about fishing, or where to go fishing, or you're coming up north, or wherever you're from, check me out on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube channel. And I want to thank everyone for your time and attention, and good luck out on the water, and please take a kid fishing. Okay, everyone, the last thing I want to say to you is I did tell you earlier in this video about how I was going to prove to you that it works to take these kids fishing, and they will come back to fishing. So first of all, I'd like to introduce my older son, Kyle. Kyle finished third place on Thousand Islands in 2016. Is that
17.
Correct? 17. And my younger son, Brandon. Brandon was 2016 at Co-Angler of the Year at the Northeast BFLs. And I also want to thank Brandon for letting me stand by his boat, since mine's getting some updates done to it right now. And last of all, we want to bring in 2 more future fishermen that Kyle knows pretty well. So give me a second here. Come here, guys. Look into the camera. What do you got to say?
Big fish! Big fish! Super big fish! Super big fish!
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye!